AP Computer Science A. This is some extra help office hours for P4F, the hidden word free response problem. You should have already tried this problem thoroughly yourself and within your group and tried to kind of make progress on it. This one is relatively short in information. It's only one page. It's also, a little more straightforward. You're going to write a whole class. So these are just some extra things I put up here to help you. This wouldn't have been given to you on the AP test, but a sheet with these and a bunch of others listed on it would be. But, we might use substring or length of a string. Index of gives you the position of a particular smaller string or character compared to, we've already talked about with strings. Now, you're not going to use all these. Dot equals, we might use, for comparing the objects. So consider a guessing game in which a player tries to guess a hidden word. The hidden word contains only capital letters, so you don't have to worry about that, and has a length known to the player. So the player is not going to guess too short or too long. A guess contains only capital letters and has the same length as hidden word. After a guess is made, the player is given a hint that is based on a comparison between the hidden word and the guess. Each position in the hint contains a character that corresponds to the letter in the same position of the guess. The following rules determine the characters that appear in the hint. If the letter in the guess is also the same position in the hidden word, so the guess that letter is right, then the hint's going to actually show that letter. If the letter they guess is in the hidden word but somewhere else, then they get a plus, and that kind of indicates, hey, this letter is somewhere else, And if it's just nowhere in the word, you put the star. The hidden word class will be used to represent the hidden word in the game. The hidden word is passed to the constructor. Okay, so the hidden word class will be used to represent the hidden word in the game. The hidden word is passed to the constructor. The class contains a method getHint that takes a guess and produces a hint. For example, suppose the variable puzzle is declared. So here, this is what we're going to do in our driver. We're going to pretty much do this. We're going to create a hidden word object and call it puzzle. And we use the constructor new hidden word. And this is the word that they're going to try and guess, okay? That's the word. Here's a table that shows several guesses and hints that would be produced. So we'll put these in our driver also, but probably with a system.out, and then put this in there. Puzzle.getHint AAA. So if the word was harps, they got the second letter right, and then every other A means that even though it's not the correct letter H and R and P and S, it is somewhere else in the word, even though it only shows up once. Hello, we get the H right, and ELLO doesn't show up anywhere else, so they get all the stars. Heart gets the H right, the E and the T aren't anywhere, so they get stars, but the A and the R are somewhere else in the word. They're in the wrong spot, so they get the pluses. Now, harms is almost perfect, but there's an extra M. But the H is there in the right spot. A, R, S are all in the right spots. Harps would give you that. So we're going to put that minimum in our driver. Write the complete hidden word class. The complete hidden word class, including any necessary instance variables, constructor, the method getHint described above. You may assume that the length of the guess is the same as the length of the hidden word. Now, we don't have to put a toString in there if they don't tell us. We don't have to do both the constructors, zero-arg, multi-arg. So I think the constructor, they showed an example of being used here, takes a string. So we need to write the whole class. So public class hidden word, and you might actually get points for just the header being correct, even though, because they didn't even give you that, but public class hidden word, that would give you points. Okay, you got to do your private instance variables. Now, it better be private if you don't declare it private. String, there's only one private instance variable, the word, the hidden word. Now, you could give it a different name than this, but I'm just kind of going with, but lowercase h, right? And that's it. And then you need a constructor, right? Public needs to be constructor. It needs to have the same name as the class. So you guys should be good at the basics of a lot of this, right? And then if you look back at the example, this is where you got to pay attention to this example. It takes a string, right? So we expect to get a string, and we call, it's a temporary variable, initial hidden word, or however you want to name it. And then you're going to initialize your hidden word. I'm not going to finish that. And then there's a method. I don't think we need to really add getters and setters unless you just want to be super thorough. I don't think we need to add a toString, but we do need to add the method public. It says get hint. Now get hint, it described how that works. Okay, get hint returns a string, right? The class contains a method get hint that takes a guess, takes a string, and produces a hint, which is also a string. So public, it should return a string, and it needs to be called get hint. They told you specifically the name of it. And then we expect to get a string. Now the string that this is going to be essentially the hint that we're going to return, and then this is the guess, right? You can call it guess or call it something else. Now what we need to do is we need to go letter by letter through their guess. So a for loop probably do the good job. Go letter by letter through the guess. Okay. You're going to need to use substring to pull the letter out. Pull one letter out at a time. And we could store it. We could create a variable. If you want, you could create a variable string, current letter or something like that, and assign it the current letter. So get that letter out, and now, so we're going through each letter in the guess. Now, once we get the letter in the guess, we kind of have to go through all the different possibilities. We have to do an if, probably an else if, maybe another. So I think the thing we want to identify first is, the order we do this can make things, harder or less hard. We want to compare. So substring, you're going to have to use your index or whatever, okay, to pull that letter out. But we want to compare the current letter, right? The current letter dot equals, letters are, we're still treating them as strings, dot equals the same spot in the hidden word, right? Same spot in the hidden word. That would be, they got the letter right. And if they do, oh, you know what? We should probably create another temporary variable for our hint before the for loop. String, we call it hint. And at first, just put double quotations with nothing between them, right? So, okay. So we get the current letter. And then when we get the current letter, if it got right, then we could say hint plus equals. We want to do plus equals because we're going to go through each letter, and hint plus equals the current letter. If they got it right, then we put that letter in the hint, right? Okay, so that's one thing. They get it perfectly right. The other one is that it's somewhere else in the word. Now, this is where I think I'm going to use that index of. So the way index of works is you take a string, so you take hidden word dot index of, Okay, this is a built-in method in the string class .index of, and then we could look for the current letter. Okay, now what it does is it returns an int that corresponds to the spot in the word that this is. It's looking for this guy in there. Okay, and it returns the first. Actually, returns the first spot that shows up. Now, here's the deal: if this last one, it would actually return the exact spot that we were at. Right? It would return whatever index we were at, or and you might be like, oh, but this is where we're going to do what? Hint plus equals. We're going to add a plus if we find it somewhere, right? But not in the current spot. You might, well, how are we going to do that? What if it is in the current spot? Well, here's the deal. Because we did this else if, because we did this first, this actually makes this possible. And we did this next. The only way this is going to even happen is if it wasn't in that spot. So we don't have to worry about, if it was in that spot, the job's done. It doesn't even go here, right? If it was in that spot. Now, here's the deal. We don't really care where it's at. We just want to know that it's somewhere in the word, right? Now, if it's not anywhere in the word, guess what it returns? And this is something we've used on previous assignments. It returns a -1. So it returns a number locating its spot. And if it's not there, instead of like, oh, let's return 1,000,000 because that's just crazy big. No, it just returns -1 because that's not even So we could do some comparison to -1. Should we do equal? Should we do not equals? And by the way, we could possibly switch this with the next one. There's really 3 cases. Either the letter is in the exact spot, it's somewhere else in the word, or it's not there at all. So we have to set up 3 possible scenarios. And sometimes we could mess with the order, right? In the third scenario, we shouldn't even have to put an if blah 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 because it should be the only thing possible left, right? And so in that one, and so like I said, you could switch the order of these. You could look to see if it's just nowhere in the word first, and then if it wasn't exactly in the spot, and it wasn't nowhere in the word, that means it is somewhere in the word, and so you could do this here. And now after you do that, that's just for the current letter, and then the for loop goes to the next letter and repeats the process, and then you're building your hint as you go. And then when you're totally done, you have to return your hint. If you don't return anything, Java is not going to compile, so it's hard to miss that when you type it. It's easier to miss it when you're writing it and don't get to type it, like on the AP test. Anyway, so that's a lot of help right there for P4F hidden word. I put a lot of the code in there. You could get creative and do it a little differently. Trying to think. I don't think a for each loop would work here because we actually want to keep track of like an index, right? And plus for each loops don't work for strings. So for each loop definitely doesn't work here because there are no arrays or array lists. Even though we kind of think of strings in a similar way with their positions of their characters, they're not arrays or array lists. So for each loop would definitely just not work at all here. Anyways, I think that's pretty much it. I don't think we need to create a toString to even make it work well because we're just going to test out. You could create a toString that, returns the private instance variable hidden word, just to make sure that got created correctly or whatever. But in the driver, I want you to at least test this scenario with this one. You could try some other ones for fun. You could have someone else in your group try it out and see if they can get it. Put a hidden word in there that you don't actually know and actually try and guess it and see how many times it takes to get it right. In the driver, to make that happen, you could create like a J option pane window or something with a while loop that lets you keep guessing until you get it right and then gives you the hints each time. So anyways, I hope that helps. But I hope you tried it first yourself.